right, welcome to this session tonight about AUP Firstbridge program. I am Mathilde Fouché. I am an admissions counselor here at AUP in the admissions office. And I have professor here, Elizabeth Kinne, and some students who are here to answer some questions that you might have, but mainly they're here to introduce the Firstbridge program. So now I'm gonna disappear and let Elizabeth present, and I will reappear at the end to close this session and look over at some of your questions. So now I'm going to leave the floor to you guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Mathilde, for organizing this session with admissions. And I'd like to thank the students who are here with us tonight. It's so nice to see your faces. You're not my students. I've heard about you, but I don't get to work with you all the times. And I'm the Firstbridge coordinator. So it's really wonderful to hear about your experiences in the program that I coordinate tonight. So I'd like to thank you for being here, first of all. So my name is Elizabeth Kinne. I'm a professor of English and Comparative Literature at the American University of Paris, and I'm a medievalist by training and a scholar of gender studies. I specialized in French medieval literature when I was in graduate school at Penn State University, and I've been coordinating the first year program for 6 years now. So I'm responsible for overseeing the staffing and putting together our program every year, for thinking about the student experience, for meeting with first year students should they encounter difficulties along the way, or have questions or need clarifications about Firstbridge. And it's a joy because I love working with incoming students every year. You bring a freshness and an enthusiasm to the institution that's really appreciable. And for our students who are contemplating coming at AUP, know that your arrival is eagerly awaited. We're waiting to receive your energy and enthusiasm as well. I'd like to explain first a little bit what Firstbridge is. Before turning things over to our students, I have a few questions for them about their experiences. This is the first time I'm hearing about their experiences this year too. And so what the Firstbridge program is designed to do is introduce students to 2 different disciplines taught by 2 different professors that are outside of their intended major. It's an interdisciplinary program that's meant to introduce students to the way the AUP functions, to help them think about large problems through a disciplinary lens, big questions that we have in societies and the world at the moment, and to help them answer some of those questions from a variety of perspectives. It's also the occasion to meet their peers, to form a learning community, to learn from their peers, to learn about how to do research and get instruction in information literacy at AUP, in the right context to be able to make contact with the city of Paris and get outside of the classroom. This semester might have been a little complicated for that. I hope you were able to do that before lockdown began, actually. That is, in a nutshell, is what Firstbridge does. Your average freshman semester is structured as follows. Every freshman takes 4 classes. 2 of those classes are the Firstbridge classes. Sometimes it's French if you're an incoming student and you want to begin French, you don't yet speak French, as well as an English class. If you don't need to take French, then often it's an elective or the introduction to your prospective major. Firstbridge fits into our GLAC, our Global Liberal Arts core curriculum, and it occupies 2 of our integrative inquiry requirements. So integrative inquiry is the interdisciplinary core of the liberal arts program that we have here at AUP. So at the end of the first freshman semester, our students have an advisor that they have worked with extensively in the classroom and hopefully outside of the classroom as well. They will have taken their first sequence of French if they need it, of English if they need it, and also will have completed 2 of the requirements towards their degree here at AUP. That is what our Firstbridge program looks like in terms of the structure. It was designed in 2003 to really increase the strength of our community at AUP. We're an urban campus, we're in Paris, we're in a large cosmopolitan European city, and it's important to be surrounded by familiar faces, both with the faculty and staff and your fellow students at AUP. So that is what the program is designed to do. And I don't want to take up too much time because I'd rather hear about the Firstbridge experience directly from our students who are experiencing it right now in this fall 2020 semester at AUP. So you were invited because your Firstbridge professors suggested that you would be great spokespeople for the program. And so I haven't had the pleasure of meeting any of you yet. Perhaps we could start by going around our virtual room, and you can tell us a little bit about where you're from, how you got here, and what Firstbridge you're in. Could we start with Eliza? Is that okay?
You bet. Hi, I'm Eliza. I am, oh, I have a little echo. Can everybody hear that? Is it okay? Okay. I'm Eliza. I'm originally from Boulder, Colorado, in the United States. I came to AUP kind of when I made a big life change. I, for the past many years, have been a professional ballet dancer. So I was really doing that life. And then I decided I wanted to go to university, but I knew that I wanted to go in Europe. I didn't want to be in the United States anymore. So I found my way to AUP, and though it's been half a semester, I'm really happy with my decision to come to university, and especially to come here. I'm taking my Firstbridge, which is called, the two courses are called Modern to Contemporary in the Arab World with Professor David Trazilian, and From Medina to Metropolis, Cities of the Near East and North Africa. It's a long title, with Professor Justin McGinnis. And I love them both. They've been excellent so far. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Eliza. Thanks for sharing that with us. We'll come back to you with more questions. Adam, could you introduce yourself to us?
Hi, yes, my name is Adam Butchler. I am a freshman, obviously. I mean, I'm in Firstbridge. I'm from Pennsylvania in the United States. So when you said you went to Penn State, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, Pennsylvania. So yeah, I decided to come to AUP because I was looking at colleges that would be really good for an international and comparative politics major. And I knew if I was going to go to college, I wanted to study abroad anyway. So when I discovered AUP, I saw, I mean, obviously it's in Paris and it is really good for my major and it's abroad. So, you know, it all added up, and the dominoes fell perfectly for me. So I made my way over. I have thoroughly enjoyed this so far, this like first semester. Even though lockdown did happen and we are kind of trapped inside, I'm still trapped inside in a gorgeous city. So I still get to appreciate the environment when I do get to go outside. The Firstbridge I decided to take is called Masculinities in 1984 and 2020. And the professors are Professor Jeffrey Gilbert and Professor Robert Payne.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you for that. Lauren.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I come from France, from the suburbs of Paris. So I came to AUP because I was interested in international politics, and I thought that being in such an international environment would be really interesting for that career. I was interested in going to the US at first, but I love Paris. I've always loved Paris, and I didn't want to leave that environment. So I saw IUP and I was just like, this is perfect for me. So that's why I came. I'm in the Art and Science of Creating Digital Stuff, Firstbridge. So it's really interesting because it's a mix of art and science, and it's really the two opposite things, you know, and you wouldn't imagine it be combined. So it's such an interesting Firstbridge. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Nice to meet you. Let's see, Elsa.
Hi, my name is Elsa. I was born in Stockholm, Sweden, but lived in New York for the past 10 years of my life. I ended up at AUP. I also thought for a while I would go to school in the US, but I took a gap year last year and I moved back to Stockholm, and I realized I wanted to stay in Europe, and found my way to AUP because it had the mix of a cosmopolitan European city, but also the liberal arts program that I knew I wanted. And I am doing the Heroes and Villains Firstbridge with Professor Williams and Professor Hamilton. And it's a business and a comparative literature class.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had my mute. I didn't unmute myself. So thank you so much, Elsa. Eric, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Shepard. I'm originally from California, born in Louisiana, but I came to Paris from an international boarding school in Austria, and just based on that travel bug bit me, and I wasn't quite ready to return to the U.S. And so I decided to stay in Europe and experience something fun. And for those of you out there who are considering or who have completed or are in the middle of the IBDP program, believe me, it will hold you in good stead upon your arrival. So yeah, and actually Elsa and I were classmates. We both take the same Firstbridge. And yeah, the neat thing about it is it both classes, the business and the comp lit class, play on each other and use this central idea of a hero versus a villain, which is in a really out of the box take on traditional classes, which I think AUP really has nailed. So yeah.
Thank you, Eric. So it's nice to meet all of you, and thank you for introducing yourselves and telling us which Firstbridges you're in. The first question that I have for you is a two-part question, and I want you to just feel free to just respond spontaneously, just unmute yourselves and go ahead and speak. The question is this: so we're speaking to incoming students tonight, and a lot of them probably aren't entirely sure when they read the Firstbridge description what exactly it entails. And once you've experienced the program, then you understand it much better. So for a student who's contemplating coming to AUP or has confirmed their interest in our institution and is planning on coming, what did you understand about Firstbridge before you came, and what do you understand now?
If I may, originally it sounded like it was a little complex, a little maybe overboard for my taste, just given the first year of how things would have run, in my opinion. But a lot of the heavy lifting is done for us as students, especially in the beginning, until you actually have to buckle down and get the classwork done. But all the steps, like your hand is held with you if you need it, and if you don't, you're free to experiment and experience on your own a little bit. And having gone through most of my Firstbridge, I really appreciate now that it is not as rigorous as it might sound, and it's not as there really is no pressure. If it comes across that there is some, there isn't. And what I found is that Firstbridges are a placeholder to help your transition into university, into living in a brand new city. and it helps that transition be a lot more smooth than diving into a really rigorous course or something that you're passionate about, that you're going to be dedicated to, because it gives you that balance of having the time and learning something new, but also having that additional time to go and do what you would like in the city or with friends, or experience other things. And I think that without the fluid scheduling and help that you get with Firstbridges, I think that the first year and the first semester especially could be a lot more extreme. And Firstbridge really tones down that transition and makes it really, really simple.
Yeah, I was going to say that hearing about Firstbridge, I expected it to be, I kind of understood what the basis of the idea was, that you were taking these two classes parallel to each other, and there would be some sort of relating them to each other or discussion between the two with the two professors. But I didn't realize how much it would really be the basis of my first experience at AUP. Like a lot of the closest friends I've made have been through this class, and both of the professors have been extremely helpful in guiding my experience at AUP so far. Professor Hamilton is one of your Firstbridge professors, becomes your advisor, I don't know what the actual name is for it, but becomes your advisor the first year. And so Professor Hamilton has been helping me choosing classes for next semester, or they always make sure to keep you updated, or if you ever need help with anything, you can always turn to them. So it's definitely been helpful in creating a community for me at AUP. That's been kind of hard to do otherwise this year because of COVID. So it's been great in doing that.
Yeah, I feel like in the United States, there's a kind of stigma around gen eds. A lot of people go into their first year of college expecting not to gain much from it because their schedule is full of gen eds, like classes that they just have to take for the sake of taking them. And while a Firstbridge is a requirement for your first year, it's so much nicer than any other option I've ever seen with a college. For starters, you're put into two classes that correspond with each other, so they kind of piggyback off of one another. So you're in two classes that are very similar, and you're always with the same people, so that way you can form bonds with them. And if you need help grasping onto a certain topic or subject that you're going over, you have these friends from the get-go that you can go to and rely on as resources. And then also the professors are always there and willing to help you no matter what you're going through. If you need more, again, if you need help, they're excellent resources. And like Elsa said, one of them does end up becoming your academic advisor for your first year. And they are there every step of the way with you, so that you can always have someone in your corner helping you out. And it acts as a really nice buffer for your first year and for your first semester abroad. If you're coming to Paris, that is, if you're choosing to study here instead of studying remotely with COVID, that is. But it acts as a really nice just first step into the college life here in Paris.
All right. Thank you, all of you, very much. So my next question would be about what you actually do in Firstbridge. Could you talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing, the projects that you're doing, how you're assessed? Eric was mentioning that it eases you into college work. In some senses, we want to introduce students to a college class, but also make sure that we're setting them up for success. So tell us a little bit about the projects that you're doing and the modes of assessment and some of the teaching methods that your instructors use.
So what I really appreciate about Firstbridge is so we're all familiar, right? Or maybe we should be, with essays and simple research here. specialized research articles. You will never have one thrown in front of you without getting an explanation of what it is and how to use it, and then how to apply it to the topic, to the course, to the assignment. So currently we're in the midst of some midterms and some final projects that are starting to show themselves. And for the most part, those are research papers, the standard MLA format, very in-depth, very, specialized to what we would like to research, which is the other benefit. Again, if you want your handheld, they surely will. And if not, they'll let you go and figure it out for yourself. Believe it or not, in-class contribution is a surprisingly weighted part of the grade scale, which I really appreciate. I don't know a single teacher that is not enthusiastic to see hands raised, whether it's virtually on Microsoft Teams or in the classroom. And yeah, you're free to express, and you get points for that. The other half is, of course, homeworks and larger scale tests and quizzes, but ultimately it's a lot of review, understanding, perfecting the knowledge that you have, and then they give you free reign to apply it to a topic that you display an interest in, which is exactly what I think universities should be for. And Firstbridges are they're interesting and they're new, but they're not extreme yet, which is a nice balance.
Yeah, in my classes, we're also doing those research projects where you can kind of choose your subject, run with it. But I feel like in general, my classes are not particularly assessment based. Actually, in one of them, we haven't even had assessments up until this point. They're more towards the end. And this whole first half has really just been about like diving into the subject matter, getting to know each other, getting to know Paris, making sure we feel really comfortable to speak out in class. And I think basically for both of my classes, we tend to read a lot in preparation for the class. And then we come to class and we just discuss. Sometimes we present the articles that we've been reading ourselves. Sometimes the teachers kind of take charge a little bit more, but it's been a really interesting way to start the university life, because I think especially like in high school, and I don't know, I ended up doing online high school because of my ballet situation. So I wasn't even in a classroom. I didn't experience like real discussions and having that be the class instead of just lectures. And I think the way that Firstbridge has you do this with taking charge, you have to read the articles, otherwise you can't participate in class. And that has really like helped me understand that is the basis of university education in general, I think especially at AUP. And that has been a really good, just getting me to dive right into that. So, and it makes class a lot more interesting doing it in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, what I found to be really nice about the Firstbridges is that the teaching styles are so, they're willing to accommodate however the student best learns. So sometimes we'll have a day where we're lecturing, but a lot of times it's a lot of reading and preparation outside of class to come to class next and discuss what we spent time reading outside of the course. So it's very accommodating in that sense. So if you learn best through lectures, we'll do lecturing on certain topics or certain themes. And it also really depends on what type of course it is. So with me, the masculinities in 1984 versus 2020, it is a comparative literature as well as a communications courses. So in the comparative literature, the way we do things is more through a writing and analysis of different readings and writings that we've seen. And we have a novel that we're working on right now. And we've had one assessment that was short answer style, and our final project type thing is a presentation, and we're currently writing an essay. So it's a lot more analysis based. But then in the communications one, we're looking more at articles and media that was consumed then and media that's consumed now. So it's a lot more presentation based rather than writing based. So it really depends on the type of courses that are contained within the Firstbridge, which I wouldn't stress too much about. I think when it comes to choosing a Firstbridge, it's a good idea to pick something that's not fully contained within your major or your interests. It's because this is one of the best opportunities to delve into something completely off the wall that you never would imagine you would want to look into, because you might find some really, really good gems.
Yeah, my Firstbridge was pretty different from what I'm hearing, because we don't have that much of assignments and essays to write, because it's about making things, especially in the studio art class. We have a lot of projects. Every class, every week, we have a new project, which is super interesting. And with the digital class, we do more of the programming and science part. And then when it combines, we end up making robots, but robots that we create through assembling, I don't know, cardboard together and learning how a robot could work. I mean, it's really interesting to combine the two, but that's pretty much what we're doing. We're really mixing art and programming and digital science. So that's basically what we do in my Firstbridge. Yeah.
Yeah, like Eric said, our Firstbridge is a lot of research project based. There's a decent amount of reading because obviously one of them is a comparative literature class, and the other one's business. But I think it's interesting because they've both found ways of weaving in other forms of media into the classes. Like in the business one, we've been watching movies and TV shows, and in the comparative literature one, we're also going to be watching a show this semester. So they find interesting ways of, I don't know, spicing it up a little bit, and not just sticking to the traditional reading articles and books all the time. And especially in the business class, it's a combination of her having slideshows or presentations for us, but it's also a lot of discussion. And the same for the literature class. It's definitely a lot of discussion. You have to be active and participating, like Eric said. So I like it. It's a good way of sharing your ideas and also learning from your classmates.
Thank you for giving us a wide range of responses as to what you actually do in a Firstbridge class. I have one question for you for an incoming student who's in the process of selecting their Firstbridge. Okay, so for an incoming student that is arriving, what is the process of selecting a Firstbridge? And you touched on this briefly. You suggested that this is the time to explore and choose something that's way outside of your major. This was from you, Adam, right? Do you have any other advice for how to select the Firstbridge?
So for me personally, I went through the entire list of Firstbridges that we were presented for the semester, and I narrowed it down to 3 that piqued my attention. And I'm going into ICP. I want to get a major in international and comparative politics, and I saw a Firstbridge option, the one that I took, that I thought was going to be based entirely in gender studies, which is something that kind of interests me. I didn't see myself getting a degree in it, so I thought this would be a really good opportunity to explore something that I don't want to dedicate a part of my degree to, but still touches into something that I may be interested in learning about. So it's a very good opportunity to just look at some of your more minor interests that you don't see yourself pursuing a degree in, and then taking some courses in them that count towards your degree, but just in a different sense than actually getting a major or minor.
I went through a pretty similar process to Adam, where I kind of had to narrow it down because there's such a vast variety of options. Like the course topics are so different that I also narrowed it down. And for me, I just kind of picked something I didn't really know anything about, something that felt interesting, felt important to learn about, but something that kind of made me a little uncomfortable because I was just diving into something that I had no idea what I was diving into. And I think that's a really good way to approach your Firstbridge in general, your decision of Firstbridge. Just pick something that feels interesting, feels exciting, and maybe even feels a little bit scary. And I definitely don't feel scared by it anymore, and it's been great.
I'm glad that Firstbridge isn't scaring you, Eliza.
Not scary at all.
Great advice. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they want to add?
I've had a similar experience with the choice, but I chose the art and science of creating stuff because I love art, but I didn't want to pursue a career in it. But I wanted to start college by maybe choosing something that's interesting for me and to make it more easy for me to, transition. So I would suggest for all the upcoming students to maybe choose something that you're interested in, but maybe not intending to major in. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So next question. In your Firstbridge experience thus far, what do you think is the most important skill that you've developed that you can imagine helping you as you continue your studies at AUP and even as you move on to a career outside of AUP?
That's hard, but because you learn a lot of really important skills. But I think one thing that I've really learned is the importance of preparation, the importance of doing what you need to before class, not just what's assigned to you after class. I think that's important for any university class, no matter what the topic is. And yeah, for careers as well, you have to be prepared, and you only gain things from the preparation. So I think that's something really important that I've taken away from this.
For me, I think it's been more of being able to look at the same type of topic, but through a lot of different lenses. I feel like that's kind of the point of the Firstbridge, with being able to look at the same theme, but in different types of classes. But even within one class, like I was saying with the business class, somehow learning about business through, like, we've been watching Breaking Bad, for example. Not something I expected to be used in terms of learning about business, but being able to look at different types of media, different types of sources, and getting kind of the information you need out of that, and being able to be critical of a source that maybe you wouldn't be used to using has been super helpful.
Yeah, I'd probably say, it's maintaining the big picture in my mind has really gotten me to where I'm at right now, in the sense of being comfortable in the circumstances that we have to be in. It's easy to get lost in loading up your computer, making sure it's charged, having your books in front of you, and and even when COVID wasn't so much of an issue, it was easy to develop a routine of hop on the metro, hop off, get to school, get back to your apartment, but keeping the big picture in mind of, you're in a gorgeous place surrounded by brand new people, brand new things, brand new ideas. Everybody has their own story and their own version of intellect and their own experiences, right? And you'll find out that we all take an oath, right? Or we all agree to hold a certain standard as AUP students, and part of that is maintaining an equitable environment, and to be able to take, two figurative steps out and look at everything and everyone that's in front of you, and giving everybody and everything a chance, and letting it influence you and letting it, wash over you, so you can just see how everything that is so new is changing you. And I think that without that, I would be a lot more stressed, a lot, more uncomfortable, and probably not as organized as I am. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for those responses. I appreciate it. I hadn't thought about the way that Firstbridge could actually help you live the historical moment that we're living right now. That hadn't even occurred to me. That's an interesting response, actually. Okay, last question for my team tonight. What is the best thing about your Firstbridge and the worst thing about your Firstbridge?
All right, so I think the best thing about my Firstbridge is simply just how engaging it and the classes can be. So you're presented with the opportunity to take something that minorly interests you. So to me, that was gender studies. And it had been something I had been meaning to learn about. It was also a nice little preface into like sociology and psychology. So I think that class itself and the topics we're learning about has been very interesting. And it's also been very great to learn how to separate discourses over time and how to properly engage certain discourses without bringing your bias into it from 2020. Because looking at something that occurred 36 years ago is it's very difficult to do so without bringing some of your biases over from 2020. So I think that's been very, very amazing for me to learn and discover through this Firstbridge that I'm in. But I think the thing that gets me, and it's very, very subjective. It's person to person. So I'm a chronic procrastinator. So it's been very hard for me to manage everything I have to do outside of course or outside of class to prepare for the next time we meet. So for me, I guess it's not really like the worst thing is the work we have to do, because that makes it something and scary. But if you're a procrastinator, keep that in mind. There's some stuff you have to do outside of class to prepare.
Adam, that sounds like my first day speech to my Firstbridge.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think I interrupted someone. Was it you, Elsa, that I interrupted? No, it was you, Eliza.
That was
okay,
me.
go ahead.
You're all good. You're good. I guess I would say my favorite thing about the Firstbridge program and my Firstbridges have just been the incredible amount of knowledge that I feel like I've gained this semester, coming at a topic from two different perspectives. And I feel like my professors have really worked together. They know what each other is teaching at a given moment. And it's really, I just feel like I've learned so much. And from like really interesting perspectives. And it's so interesting to compare one thing that I'm learning from a novel in one class to a scholarly article in another, and just to compare them. I just think I'm learning so much more about these topics than I could if I was just in kind of a regular first year class, especially because it's a topic I knew nothing about. So it's giving me a really good base understanding of this topic and has made me realize that it's something I'm actually very interested in. And the idea of Middle East studies is something I'm considering for a major, especially because I came into AUP very much undecided about my major. And I also think one of the very best things has been getting out of the classroom. We were lucky enough in my class, I don't know about you guys, but where every Friday from the first week till lockdown, we went out, we went to a museum, we went to a cultural institute, we went to a mosque. So we really, really got to see the city of Paris, got to see what we're learning in real life. I know usually like they get to go to other countries. We were supposed to go to Marseille. That got canceled for us this semester, but hopefully in the future, or hopefully even in the spring, some more travel and stuff can be part of the Firstbridge as well. So that's been amazing. I guess, like Adam, it's a lot of work. I think that's, if I had to say the worst thing about it, but I mean, that's how you learn. But yeah, it's a lot of work.
For me, the best thing about my Firstbridge would be how interesting the projects are and how passionate the professors are. And it just makes it so much more interesting for us to see how they talk about the subjects and how they explain it with passion. And yeah, so I would say that's the best thing. I don't know, I have no idea for a worst thing. I wouldn't say, I don't think there's a worst side to my Firstbridge, so I don't have a response for that. Sorry.
If I may, regarding, the best thing about Firstbridge, I think is the repetition of skills that are practiced and that must be practiced, if you're going to perform well, and also the standard that students and classmates and teachers hold themselves to. It keeps a really healthy competition in the classroom, and whatever the assignment is, you're consistently practicing a handful of skills that will suit you into the future, whether it's university or a career, but they're all disguised a little bit differently day to day, and you've heard a little bit of digital literacy, that term thrown around, and before AUP, I could have guessed what it is, but now I find myself being fluent in certain research terms and research techniques, and I can, my words per minute has skyrocketed, and it's the little things like that you practice every single day that I think where I find pride in the work that I do in my Firstbridge. The worst thing about, or maybe the only fatal flaw to it, in my opinion, would be how easy it is to get so comfortable in class. And don't get me wrong, AUP is like a family, yeah, and you have friends all around you, and Paris can be your home. But if you get too comfortable, you might miss things, you might drop the ball. So I think it's important to remember that this is equally an occupation as anything else would be, and you have a job and a duty to perform well. And Firstbridges are they're so entertaining, they're so friendly and home-like that I've dropped the ball maybe once or twice and have gotten too comfortable. So beware, but that's about it.
I think my favorite thing about Firstbridge has been the community it gave me. I mean, I talked a little bit about that before, but really just getting comfortable with the style of teaching at AUP and the types of people in our classes, and also having the reflective seminar. I don't think we actually talked about that. The reflective seminar happens once a week, and it's with both of your professors from the two Firstbridges. And they can be used in different ways. Our teachers use them. Sometimes it was for more general, helping us getting adjusted to AUP, helping with resources, and sometimes it was talking more specifically about our heroes and villains topic, but that just added to the community that they gave us, having a lot of open discussions that way. And as for the worst thing, I mean, this isn't really a reflection of the class, but we weren't able to get out into Paris as much as I'd hoped. We were able to do one thing, excursion, I guess, but other than that, it was all inside the classroom. But so that's definitely something I look forward to in the spring, if that's possible.
Right. Okay. I want to thank you all for sharing your experiences with me tonight and with our audience. I really appreciate it because I'm an instructor at AUP. I know what the month of November is like. I know that you have final projects coming. I know how busy this time of year is. And I really appreciate you having taken the time to talk to me tonight and talk to the audience. I wish you all the best for the rest of the semester. I'm the Firstbridge coordinator. Don't hesitate to reach out. Now I'll be able to put faces to your names if I see them in my email box. So take good care of yourselves, and I hope to be in touch with you again soon. And now I'm going to turn things over to Mathilde.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We have one last question that popped up in the comment section, and so we can do like the last little rounds if you have something to say. Is someone asking how you should prepare for your first class? So did you come prepared? Did you do anything ahead of time?
If I may, so before our first our arrival in classes, my first version, they gave us a small little like introduction assignment, just so we can start getting into the framework and the frame of mind for how we should approach the course, Firstbridge. So we had to do a little assignment, and then we met and we're split into groups to share our answers with each other. That way we are also starting to get connections with people in the class, so that way we can start to feel more comfortable around certain people. That's actually how I met someone that I am really good friends with now, is because we were put in the same group from the same little assignment. So, but aside from that, coming into our first class, it was very much just protocol based, going over what the syllabus is going to look like, what we're going to be planning on learning, how the classes are going to look in relation to each other. So I wouldn't worry too much about your first classes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to prepare for any. I didn't have to prepare for anything before the first class, so that was that for me.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a typical thing or if this was a COVID thing, but we had maybe a week or two prior to the start of classes, we had a big Teams meeting with the whole class and with all of our professors. And that was really nice. It was just introductions, and it made it so that when we arrived on campus those first few days, it wasn't like all new. Like, we had at least seen these people virtually. We knew where each other was coming from. We knew why we had picked this Firstbridge. The professors had given us a slight overview of what they were hoping to accomplish, and it was calming to know kind of what it was going to look like. So it made there be no stress upon arrival. So that was very nice.
Yeah, I would say with the first few classes and maybe even the first week, I wouldn't be so quick to accept the first impression, just because I found personally that the the pace at which classes evolved into, or how much easier or slower they became, it really varied. And I remember looking back that the first week, or well, 3 weeks in, I felt like I was in a totally different space, a totally different class. And I kind of, was wondering where did the first few classes go, and what's happening. So I would do your best to act like a sponge and just absorb as much as you can. And again, maintain that big picture, if you will. And do your own thing also. I would definitely recommend to remain yourself and just enjoy and absorb what you can.
Yeah, I think for ours, I don't actually remember. Eric, I don't know if you remember if we got an assignment coming in. I don't think we did, but we did also have like an introductory Zoom or Teams meeting. But yeah, I think as for like a work before your first class, it's totally going to depend on who your teachers are. But just coming in, sounds cheesy, but an open mind and just honestly being ready for whatever the experience is going to be.
Thank you. It was great. Thank you a lot. Thank you for joining us tonight, taking some time to answer questions for future AUP students. And thank you all who watched this video live. Tomorrow we have more events coming up. If you want to know more about the communications major, it's tomorrow, and also about the environmental science that will be coming up on Friday. So you can check our website for that. And if you have any questions, you can email admissions@aup.edu. You'll be connected to your personal admissions counselor. So thank you all. We'll stop this live stream now, and please be in touch with us.